Okay, so in this video we want to talk a little bit about foil shapes. Front foil shapes, not stabilizers, not fuselage length or anything, just front foil shapes. This is actually a topic that came up quite a bit at the boat show. I was giving a little bit of a workshop for beginners. And so this is something for beginners where we want to think about what is a good front foil to start with that gives me and you the best stability and the most and fastest rate of success without getting frustrated about it. And the front foil shape really comes into play, particularly now that there are so many shapes out there, so many brands, so many variations, and it is really easy to lose sight and lose control and get all mad confused. Well, the topic is actually much easier than you guys think, because we all know planes. You guys all know planes. Everybody knows the difference between a sailplane, a fighter jet, or a massive cargo plane. Do they all have the same wings? No, of course not. They all have different wings. What's a fighter jet for? It needs to do fast turns, needs to be extremely agile. And what kind of wings does a fighter jet have? Well, short, almost like triangular ones, minimizing drag, less wingspan for more maneuverability and a shorter turning radius. It's very clear. Are beginner pilots starting with a fighter jet? No, absolutely not. They start with a plane that has a very stable wing. And that is actually something that you guys also need to think about. When you're starting with winging, what kind of front foil, what kind of wing are you going to be learning on? Looking at a beginner plane, those wings are usually very wide, kind of square, and they have a thicker profile for good lift. Very forgiving wing. So let's look at two different extremes. I made a little paper mache cutout, and I cut something like this. Is this more of a beginner foil? Or is this more of a beginner foil? I think the answer is pretty clear. We want something like this. The line from the leading edge here to the trailing edge underneath here, that is called a chord. And the longer this chord line is, the more lift and more stability such a front foil can carry. Just like a cargo plane. Cargo planes have extremely long chord lines and a very thick profile. That's the front of the wing. This profile here that creates the lift because they have a big payload. And in foiling, who is the payload? Well, exactly, you are the payload. The board is the payload. So we have to think, so what are we trying to lift here? Are we trying to lift a kid, a 200-pound guy, a 160-pound guy, a 300-pound guy? And all of a sudden, this wing will become very important. Think about a sailplane. For example, a foil like this. This is what we call a high aspect foil. This is when the ratio between the chord line that I just showed to the wingspan. And there's another thing, you guys know that from pictures and from your TV. That is just the ratio between the height and the width. So the higher the aspect ratio, the harder this thing is to start. Think about it. You have a foil like this, and you want to start this out of the water, and you put it on a certain angle. Now, with a longer chord line, evidently, there is more air to attack the wing. So that's what they call the angle of attack, the angle that this wing does. So if you take a high aspect wing and you go with this too steep, and you guys seen it all, you immediately lose lift. So as a beginner, you want to stay away from high aspect wings. They will not do you any good. They're fun for later because they're much faster and there's really cool ways to play around with variations. But in the beginning, you want something like this. You want something that is wide, stable, has a chord line that allows you to play with the angles. When you step on your back foot, evidently, instantly, you're putting the foil at an angle. So when you're putting too much, you don't lose your lift, or you don't have a stall out moment, another term out of aviation, your foil is not stalling out in the water. That means when the current that runs across the wing has a sudden abruption and stops, and the wing loses its lift. Boom, the plane falls out of the sky. So you really have to think about your angle of attack, or your angle, how far you're going to step with your back foot on to the tail that creates that lift. And with a bigger foil, with a bigger cord line, you can make a mistake and you're not falling out of the sky. So think about, you guys, when you buy a foil, look up some online videos, educate yourself, take a course, talk to an associate in a shop, and learn about what front foil is good for me, because it's easy to buy the wrong foil and then it gets very expensive, you're frustrated, you have to buy another foil, and your learning is now just being delayed. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.